I'm an American who's been traveling the world and living abroad for nearly 2 years. And although I spent much of those 2 years in Europe, I never actually visited Italy. Now, I know three things about Italy: carbs, cars, and clothes. But I'm hoping to learn more about your beautiful country throughout this video, and I hope that you will help inform me in the comments below as we react to these videos together.
In Italy, and here's some things about the Italian culture that I think are really interesting and funny to me. They're different. Number one is drying your hair every single time you shower. In America, it's very normal to like put your hair in a towel or a t-shirt or let it air dry naturally because obviously heat is damaging to your hair. People here genuinely believe that if you don't dry your hair, you'll get sick. At least my friends keep telling me that. They're like, oh my god, you don't dry your hair, you're gonna get sick. If you feel ill tomorrow, you know why. United States, it's very normal for women to dry their hair. Like, I wouldn't say it's uncommon, but I never see men dry their hair. Here, every man I know dries their hair after the shower. As long as they have hair longer than a buzz cut, they're drying it with a hair dryer. Slay. Yay, questa diva. Along with that is the strong belief that the weather impacts your health, like your actual physical health. I know there are some conditions in which if it rains or it's cold, maybe your muscles, your joints hurt. When I tell you, every single Italian that I talk to is like, oh, I don't feel good, it's the weather. It's like y'all have never experienced rain before. I'm in Sicily, by the way. So Sicily, I guess they really don't get that much rain, especially in Palermo. But like when they do, everybody's like, oh, I can't leave my bed. Bless your heart. In America, this is a superstition. Like when you're little, your mom's like, don't go outside in the rain, you're gonna get sick. But like as you go older, like you realize science like really tells you that's not true. It's superstition. Just add it might stress your body temperature and like that's about it. Building on that, okay, I've never lived in a warm climate before and Sicily is obviously very warm. But once it drops below 60 degrees Fahrenheit, everybody wears pants. I wear shorts or a skirt out and people look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, oh my god, aren't you cold? You're gonna get sick. I've been told that I need to put on long pants or I need jeans and I'm like, babe, I came from the Rocky Mountains. Like, this is nothing for me. I lived in New Hampshire for 4 years, babe. It snowed for like 7 months a year. You probably already know this one, but no cappuccino after 11 a.m. Okay, for me, I'm like, I personally don't give a fuck. I'm gonna order it anyway. Like if I was out until 3 a.m. and I don't wake up until 11, I'm gonna go order a cappuccino anyway, but they look at you funny. Like they really truly believe that having milk after breakfast is very bad for you. And like I understand where they're coming from. Like milk is not good for digestion overall, it's inflammatory. But the judgment, because in America we drink coffee like all day, every day. Coffee is our life, you know? And we always have like the giant coffees, which a little disgusting, but you know, a guilty pleasure. Additionally, it's very strange to take a coffee to go here. Like if you ask for a dasporto, like everybody looks at you like, okay, American. They like to drink their coffee fast and like they're teeny tiny. I mean, I'm sure you know what they look like. This next thing, I wish we had. Very serious about their lunch break. Like una pausa, I don't think I said that right. Or like un reposo. Like every store closes maybe like 1 to 3 or 4. No rush for anything. Like, and it's really nice. Maybe it's inconvenient because Americans are used to like go, 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 go. Is really anything that serious? Let me know if you want a part 2 because I have so much more to say.
So she mentioned that Italians like to dry their hair after every time they shower, and given that it's a warm climate, I'm assuming that people shower every day, which means that they are using a hair dryer for their hair every single day. Now, this just goes to show that not everywhere in Europe is the same, because in the Netherlands, I feel like it is much more normal for people to air dry their hair, probably because it rains so much that, I mean, you dry your hair and then you go outside and it gets wet again anyways. But I do wonder, does that not have an effect on your hair long term? Because I was definitely taught to believe that heat, especially applied over a long period of time, day after day, will do damage to your hair. But I mean, if you have a whole entire culture who believes otherwise and the results back that up, then it must be a fallacy. It must be a superstition. And we'll get to superstitions here in a second, but I guess that's kind of a superstition for us, whereas, for example, in Italy, the superstition that rain makes you sick is something that is not really shared across other European countries. I know in the Netherlands, that sort of superstition, any superstition pertaining to rain, pretty much does not exist at all. At least as far as I'm aware. In my time there, I never came across any sort of superstition pertaining to rain because it rains almost every day. I mean, If Dutch people believed that rain made you sick, then they would literally just stay inside all the time. I guess in Italy, you sort of have the luxury of believing that because it just doesn't rain nearly as much, which is why I'm sure a lot of Dutch people like to vacation in Italy to get away from the rain, but I digress. That's a belief that honestly might have some truth to it as well, not necessarily because rain intrinsically makes you sick, more so because I think any sort of drastic change in temperature or conditions can shock your system and leave you more susceptible to illnesses. Now, I am by no means a medical professional, so take everything I'm saying with a whole entire bowl full of salt, because this could be completely false, but I'm inclined to believe that if you took someone from Italy and you dropped them in the Netherlands in the middle of the winter, they would be more likely to get sick from the weather than your average Dutch person. And so in that way, what they're saying is actually true. And conversely, if you were to take a Dutch person, put them in Italy in the summer, they would probably be much more susceptible to, I guess, heat sickness or heat stroke, something to that effect, because their bodies are not accustomed to it. Now, as far as wearing shorts goes, she said that Italians like to wear shorts anytime it's above, I think, 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which I don't know what that is in Celsius. I'll put it on the screen right now. But I think this is more to do with Italians not just being not really acclimated to colder weather in general, because Italy is a warmer country, but also because, like I mentioned earlier in the video, Italians tend to be very fashionable. And while it is possible to put together nice outfits with shorts, I think that most people, if they think about their very best outfit, at least men, I don't really know about women's fashion per se, but for most men, when you think about your nicest outfit, it probably involves pants. It probably involves long pants and some form of layering up top. I could be wrong. At the end of the day, I'm wearing a white t-shirt that I got from Dollar General in the US. I am not a fashionista.
Cultural differences that shocked me as an American who lived in Italy. You know that one Italian hand gesture that everyone loves to imitate? Yeah, that's like level 1. Italians have an entire encyclopedia of hand gestures, and each one means something different. It's like a language all on its own, and it definitely takes some time to learn. Be careful not to throw out a rock on sign to any Italian, because that means that their significant other is cheating on them. Moving on to a fun fact. Everyone thinks that bidets are a French thing, when actually they're way more common in Italy. The majority of households have a bidet in the bathroom for you to wash your... I was so uncomfortable the first time one of my friend's moms gave me a towel for me to use with the bidet. I had no idea what to even do. How does this thing work? If you think that's confusing, just wait until you order pizza. First off, in the US, we always order a large pizza and then share it. Whereas in Italy, everyone orders their own pizza. But I think the most upsetting thing I ever experienced when I moved to Italy was that pepperoni pizza doesn't exist. If you ask for pepperoni in Italy, you're gonna get bell peppers. Now, if you want something remotely similar, they do have the Diavola pizza, which has like salami picante, but it's not the same. There are tons of other flavors that we don't have in the US that are amazing. They just don't have pepperoni. Finally, something else really surprising for me was how blunt and honest Italians are. Oh, I was at the store and I just bought this shirt. I don't like it. Okay, did I ask? They will give you unsolicited, brutally honest advice. But honestly, once you get used to it, it's kind of refreshing because you can just clap back with, cool, I didn't ask. Now, again, I love Italy. These are just some culture shocks I had at first. I can share plenty more, so follow for part 2.
Okay, so I definitely learned a thing or two about Italy and Italians in that video as well. For starters, the hand gestures thing. So it seems like, based on everything she's saying here, Italians are very expressive people. And honestly, that doesn't really surprise me at all. It doesn't surprise me because I feel like Spaniards are kind of similar. And maybe expressive isn't even the right word. Maybe passionate is the right word. I feel like Italians, at least how I envision you in my head, are very, very passionate people. And they express that in every component of life. From the food, like I mentioned earlier, the carbs, okay, the pizzas, and we'll get into pizzas here in a second. The vehicles, all right? I am somewhat of a car guy when I think about Lamborghinis, Ferraris, just those top of the line supercars that have all of this drama in terms of the driving experience. that might reflect Italian culture. Whereas, let's say, for example, British cars like Rolls-Royce and Range Rover tend to be a lot more refined and calm, which matches British culture. So it's always cool to see how different cultures can project their cultural defining mechanisms through the products that they share with the rest of the world. Now, speaking of products, let's talk about pizza. Now, I'm vegan, so I don't know if I'm ever going to have the opportunity to have an Italian pizza. If you know of a place that sells somewhat authentic Italian vegan pizzas, please comment below so that I can put it on my list of places to visit when I go there. But not having pepperoni pizza, I'm not gonna lie, that would throw a lot of Americans off, because that's pretty much the default flavor of pizza that most Americans go for. It's either pepperoni or cheese. Those are the two default ones. But visually, the pizzas that they had in the video looked really good to me. They did look very tasty. They definitely look different than American pizzas, maybe less greasy and a little more sloppy, I guess you could say, but sloppy in a good way. And I'm not gonna lie, again, if you know of a vegan Italian pizza spot or somewhere that has vegan Italian pasta or bread or anything like that, just carbs, just vegan Italian carbs, comment below so I can go there. But if you've had both American pizza and Italian pizza, comment below which one you like more. Now, when we talk about directness, that's something that I've heard quite a bit about Dutch people as well. I've heard that Dutch people are very blunt and upfront, but in my experience, that wasn't really true. So I'm not saying that what she's saying isn't true, because again, I see Italians just stereotypically as very passionate and expressive people, but I guess this is one of those things that I'll just have to see when I go there, how accurate that actually is, because people definitely blow the Dutch directness things out of proportion. And also, maybe it's more region specific. Maybe Northern Italy and Southern Italy have different tendencies when it comes to expressiveness or different levels of expressiveness. Now, bidets. I'm not gonna lie. I'm in Vietnam right now. We just left Thailand. And I have been reintroduced to bidets after being initially introduced to them in Spain. I don't know if I can ever go back to just using toilet paper. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Bidets are far superior, and I don't know why literally every country does not use them.
Okay, so this is a controversial take, but maybe my fellow expats can weigh in on this, or anybody who has visited Sicily, but I am convinced that children here in Sicily are some of the worst behaved kids I've ever seen. When I tell you there is no such thing as inside voice, outside voice, doesn't exist. Kids here scream nonstop at the top of their lungs, to the point that like I'm on high alert all the time, thinking like some serious shit is going down. Like thinking that someone is being hurt somehow, some way. And the proof that they're so bad is even when I'm traveling, let's say I'm on a trip, I'm on vacation, I'll be in Spain or Greece or Portugal. How do I know that an Italian child is within my midst? Because they are the only ones wherever I am that are screaming at the top of their lungs, and the parents do nothing to stop it, do nothing about it. So they can be spotted even in foreign countries. So badly misbehaved to the point that like I cannot keep my windows open here in the apartment because it will just be nonstop kids screaming closely in the distance. And I've noticed it in public spaces, in restaurants, in grocery stores. I hate to say it, but even my friends here who have kids, they are just next level bad. And guys, I don't know if it's because they're so spoiled here. They're so loved, which is great. Like a loving childhood, every single person should have that. But as a childless by choice individual who never plans on having children, couldn't be me in this lifetime. guys, it gets under my skin like you wouldn't believe. And you'd think after 3 years, like I would just get used to that noise, that screaming, that behavior. I still, maybe I won't ever get used to it. So my fellow expats, people who maybe live in other parts of Italy, people who have visited here in Sicily, can somebody please weigh in and tell me if I'm crazy or agree, disagree? Drop it down below. What are your thoughts? Have you guys seen this for yourselves?
Okay, so we have a pretty controversial one. Now, before I go any further, just remember that I'm reacting to these videos in real time, just like you are. So I by no means co-sign on anything that she said about your children in that video. So please don't dislike my video on the basis of what she said. That said, I have a pretty interesting theory about this. So for starters, I think that a lot of it has to do with, again, Italians just being expressive and passionate people. And clearly, they learn that at very young ages. But my thing is, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Of course, there should be boundaries and limitations on how loud a child should be, especially in a public space. I know that, and let me not say this too loud, but here in the apartment building that we're in here in Vietnam, the neighbors like to leave their door open throughout the day and let their kids run up and down the hallway and ride their bikes and scream and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, you could just do that outside. But besides the point, just had to get that off my chest. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, provided that it's in a controlled environment. I also don't think that we should just conflate volume with behavioral patterns, because in my estimation, right, and I say this as someone who was a devious little kid who was always getting off into things that he shouldn't have been getting into, it's really the quiet kids that you have to pay the most attention to. The kids that are loud are easy to manage because at least you know where they are and what they're doing. They're playing tag with their friends, they're yelling, they're doing whatever they're doing, but you know what they're doing. Me, when I was a kid, I was quiet. And because of that, again, I got into stuff that I shouldn't have gotten into. For example, trying to stick coins in the electrical outlet and blowing it up. Or taking the water hose on the side of our house, putting it in the exhaust pipe of my parents' car and turning it on. And getting water all up in their exhaust system.